The term resto-mod originated sometime in the 1990s to describe a car that had been restored and modified to improve performance, comfort, and safety. It basically describes muscle cars from the 60s and 70s, but could be applied to any car from the mid to late 50s. What if I told you there was a man and a car way ahead of its time, and it resides here at Stahls, and if you referred to it as a resto-mod, you wouldn't be completely off your rocker? Hold on tight, we're about to get a rocket. A world of wonder, where fantastical music machines provide the soundtrack for a tantalizing stroll through history. Vintage automobiles and memorabilia stimulate the senses around every chromed curve and corner. This is Inside Stahls. This may look like a 1935 Auburn Speedster, but there's a lot more here than meets the eye. Auburn manufactured the Speedster from 1928 until ceasing operations in 1937. The cars were designed to look and go fast. They were advertised to go 100 miles per hour or more, and Auburn's hope was that the public's growing need for speed would draw people to the showroom to purchase the more practical offerings from the brand. The Speedster lived up to its name. A man named Al Jenkins set 70 American speed records in a 1935 Speedster. But not even that car was as modified as this baby. Thanks in part to a dual ratio rear axle that could be controlled with this lever on the steering wheel, the Speedster was equipped with what was essentially a 6-speed transmission. When engaged, you got a torquey 451 rear end gear. In standard mode, a nice leisurely street cruising 3-1. By 1935, the Speedster was already a combination of previous models. Alan Leamy designed the second generation Speedster from 1931 to 1933. Auburn built a lot of them through 1934, but in part due to the Great Depression, there was a bunch of unfinished 1931 to 33 bodies laying around. In 1935, Auburn's Gordon Bierig was tasked with designing a new Speedster, and he used what he had available to him, a bunch of leftover bodies from 1931. Only a Pop-Tart has that long of a shelf life. Where was I? Oh yeah, only the passenger compartment from the second gen Speedster was used on the 35 and 36 models. Because of that, some modifications were made to match up with the new hood lines. While the front end was all new, the fenders were modified as well, and a different Speedster tail was added. Even the chassis had to be modified to fit the older bodies. The 35 and 36 Speedsters were stretched, so an additional 5-inch extension was added to the backside of the frame. So there's all that. But why then could you make the argument that this is a resto-mod? Well, because sometime in the 1950s, a man named Joe Girtler Sr. got a hold of this car and did some things. Girtler hailed from the Bronx and built sports cars and race cars for some very important people, but this one was all his. Even by the 1950s, Duesenberg's Model J Straight 8 was still the most powerful engine you could put in a car. It made 265 horsepower, but a Straight 8 had never been placed in an Auburn Speedster until Girtler came up with a plan. A classic car with more power? How very resto-moddy. It's not unlike swapping an LS into a 69 Camaro now, is it? Okay, are you at least warming up to the idea? With the engine swap complete, the Speedster picked up an additional 115 horsepower. Yes, please. But as any knuckle buster will tell you, one modification often opens up Pandora's parts box for many more. The straight 8 and its transmission is so long it can span the width of the Detroit River, so Girtler had to lengthen the frame 11 inches from the firewall. That meant he also had to lengthen the hood and side panels. The headlights are believed to be from a 1940s era Chevrolet. The hood ornament, gorgeous, but not Duesenberg, and originally an Auburn script to be located here at the front of the grille. This features the Duesenberg Eagle. And out back, there was some junk for the trunk. Girtler used all that boat tail space to create a sizable luggage compartment for a spare tire or to hide the bodies. The instrument panel was also taken from a Duesenberg Model J. It looked and retained the feel of an original Speedster, but with all the custom touches, the engine swap, and additional modifications, this was every bit a resto mod decades before the term ever entered our vernacular. And if you're still not convinced, I will thumb wrestle you to the death! Come back here! Don't run from me! Girtler eventually sold the car in 1956. It's been well traveled since, from Cleveland to Texas, Minnesota, and even Germany, where it received its most recent restoration. This car has literally traveled the world. But it's never been more at home than right here at Stahls, where it's resided since 2024, and where it's waiting for you to discover all of its brilliant restorations and modifications.